afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to the Henry Kravitz YouTube channel, and welcome to a small edition of the Blue Flag podcast. I did say I was going to do this on Twitch, but unfortunately life got in the way, so I just thought I'd do a little update as to what I thought of the Canadian Grand Prix, the highs and the lows, and just a general chit chat, and then some interesting news that I heard or saw on Autosport, a couple of days ago or 3 days ago, depending on when you see this, because obviously this is now Wednesday, the 19th of June. Obviously it's Spain this weekend, so you've got Spain, Austria and Silverstone back to back, which is an interesting one. And I see Silverstone have still got tickets up for sale. Just everywhere. Apparently they've got tickets for general tickets and more expensive tickets, so that's an interesting one to see, because normally it sells out quite quickly. So have they put the prices too high? Maybe I don't know, to be honest. Without looking into it, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But obviously it's Spain this weekend. There might be a few overtakes, because obviously the last corner is a flat corner now, it's not chicane, so they might promote a bit of overtaking. It's never normally been a great race, but hopefully it's a good one. But I don't think it will be, to be honest. And obviously if your car struggles with acceleration and top speed, you're going to be near the back of the grid. So let's dive into Canada. And Mercedes were quick all weekend. They were quick. Whether it's just the car, they've upgraded the car now, whether it's both had the front wing and they dialed it in, whether they've now got genuine pace to be with or close to Red Bull, Ferrari and McLaren. We'll see obviously in Spain, or whether it was track specific. I can't say that word. But we will see. I would like to see them. They're probably a little bit closer to those three teams, but I don't think they're on their level with them, if that's in performance wise. But it was good to see them up there. It was good of them to get pole. The race, I know obviously George made 3 mistakes, but I don't know whether they would have got a race win. I'd like to think they may have done, but yeah, it was good to sort of have them up there. Obviously Ferrari had a stinker of a race. Charles Leclerc, after like 2 laps, having engine problems, and they just had no pace all weekend. And Carlos Sainz, a day or two after James Vance announces he's his number 1 target to be in the seat next year, he takes out Alex Albon to say thank you. So after spinning. So I know that obviously a few other teams have spoken to Carlos, but it's up to him where he goes. I'd assume if he wants to announce it, he'd announce it this weekend, but I don't think he wants to. So there's plenty of time yet to announce it. He's got to make a decision that's best for him. Now, I did hear that it was a 1 year plus a 1 year at Williams, and I know he's been offered a 3-year deal at Audi, so it's widely reported it's a 3-year deal, should I say. So hopefully, in due time, we will we'll find out. I was confident at Audi. I'm not so sure now. I think he ends up at Audi or Williams, if I'm honest with you. I think Ocon still goes to Haas with Beerman. I think Beerman's a done deal, kind of. I think the Daily Mirror was reporting it's sort of done. The Beerman to Haas, not the Ocon thing. But Ocon's obviously got, I think, he alluded to it with Natalie Pinkham that he's got something lined up and he'll announce it when he's ready to. It might even be he goes to Le Mans or something else. I think he could. He's a quick enough driver. He's just, he doesn't play the team game sometimes, and he doesn't. It's like him, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think Esteban as a person is lovely. It's just sometimes once that howler goes on, that's it. And I mentioned this on the last sort of opening intro of the Blue Flag podcast, that he seems to just hit his teammates more than other people. Sometimes not his fault, but a few times they are, or high profile ones are. Even if you don't blame him, the stewards do. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Obviously the team asked him to let Gasly go because he was on better tyres, and he waited 3 or 4 laps before he let him through, and then wasn't happy because he didn't switch him back round. Giving him Gasly like a lap and a half to try and catch Daniel Ricciardo in front, and then said in his press conference he's not going to be a nice guy, Mr. Nice Guy anymore. So that will be interesting to see how he goes. Would he see the season out? It depends on how aggressive he drives against Gasly, because if he starts costing the team potential points, they're going to probably drop him. I know that obviously Alpine were probably one of the teams that were interested in Carlos. Obviously at the minute, with them going through all this new restructuring, I can't really see him wanting to go there. Now, I know obviously when he was there on loan for Red Bull, he was well regarded in Renault at the time. Obviously I believe they wanted to sign him, but Red Bull weren't going to sanction that kind of deal because they weren't getting on due to the engine issues. So yeah, I think I read Craig Slater say somewhere that it's probably going to be Jack Dillon or Victor Martins. They're probably in pole position for the seat. Bottas has spoken to the team. Whatever they think he can do a job to develop the team, or whether they want to let Gasly develop the team, lead the team. It'll be interesting to see, but it all obviously depends on where Carlos Sainz goes, because once Carlos Sainz is announced, then the rest are falling into space, unless obviously everything else gets announced first, and then he's the last one to announce where he's going. But if he's the last, it'll be pretty obvious where he's going. So Max obviously won the Canadian Grand Prix, but only by 3.8 seconds. A race that I think he says in the past he likes to sort of race people and win races like that, not just go out front and dominate. So it was good to see him sort of win it from coming through, not starting on pole but coming through 3 or 4 places and winning the race. Obviously in Miami, McLaren benefited, or Lando benefited from the safety car. Whether Max would have won the race, I don't know necessarily, because obviously Lando pulled out a big enough gap. I know obviously Max had damage, but obviously in Canada, Max, the safety car, hindered that Lando, and obviously it was Max and the others. So sometimes things go for you, sometimes they go for you. Obviously McLaren had another great race again. Obviously Red Bull, Max winning, and Sergio Perez had a stonking bad race. Clashed with Gasly on lap 1. Then did he have a crash with somebody else? I can't remember, so long ago. But then obviously he spun and dropped it, broke the rear wing, and then drove it back to the pit lane. So he got a 3 place grid penalty, and I think the team got either a €25,000 fine or a €50,000 fine, because they told him to drive back to the pit lane when the team knows he should have pulled over and left the car there. So that's interesting. For me, drivers of the day, I know you should only have one. For the first sort of 5 laps, 6 or 7, up to the first pit stop, it was Magnussen for me, because he was flying everywhere, and if it had rained a bit harder, he probably would have been leading the race. Daniel Ricciardo, he had a good race, and Lance Stroll had a good race as well. So I think those 3 had good races at some points. Who had a stinker? It's easy to look at Zhu, because obviously he finished last of the people who finished, but that car is awful, and if that car is awful, you're not, you know, if that car was awful and you're finishing P12 or P13 and your teammate's finishing P15 last, then you could say they're doing well. But if that car doesn't suit his style as well, you know, if he's got no confidence in it at all, then it kind of plays on this thing that they're going to finish. It's whether how much money Sauber have got to invest in upgrading the car, or you know, if Audi are now going to start helping him develop the 2025 car. It'll be interesting to see. But I made a point on the first podcast of the top 5 teams have got really good bases, and if you've got good bases and you've got all your departments that are working together, you can sort of make time up, you know. But if you look at the 5 teams at the back, you know, unless you spend the money on the factories and getting the personnel in, then you're potentially never going to catch up. Now, I know James Vowles mentioned that he's got, I think, 30 people ready to announce coming in, but they'll be announced in due time. So obviously, if they've got, obviously they don't have to worry about their engines, but obviously they need wind tunnels and everything else. If they get their car right, you know, if they spend a lot of time developing cars for next year's car, or you know, obviously you can't do 26 cars till next year anyway, but they could have a good car next year, start, you know, decent in the midfield. It's just how teams around them develop and how they develop. So unfortunately for Logan Sargent, obviously he had that accident and then he crashed again and retired. And unfortunately for Albon, he was just a passenger by Carlos Sainz spinning. You know, I think I mentioned before I had a poor race. Maybe it's just track specific or what. I think they've sort of said that they getting to the bottom of it. I've done a report as to why they were so slow. Obviously, Haas finished 12th. They finished 12th with 11th and 12th with Hülkenberg 11th and Magnussen 12th. And Mika Hülkenberg was only about half a second off Esteban Ocon in the end, with Magnussen about 4 to 5 tenths behind him. So, you know, not a good race. Obviously, unfortunately for Haas, they didn't get any points. When they could have if it rained at the start a bit longer, they could have, especially Magnussen, could be leading the race. Whether they would have won the race or got points, I don't know. Potentially. So I think, like I say, obviously it's unfortunate for Hülkenberg and Magnussen to finish outside the points, but they didn't finish far away from the points. And I mean, Gasly was only 3 tenths ahead of Ocon, so they were quite close together. Those cars, and Magnussen was just over 9 seconds ahead of Bottas, and obviously Yuki Tsunoda. He was 14th and he was 12 seconds behind Bottas. I can't remember what happened to Yuki in that race. I thought he was having a good race, and then Zhu was a lap down. So obviously British drivers P2, P3, P4. So Lando, George, and Lewis. Obviously I'm a general F1 fan first and Team Unstone fan second. So obviously to see both Alpine get points was great. Obviously Ocon wasn't happy with the team orders. I believe it was 5 laps to go, asked him to switch because Gasly was on the quicker tyres to go and attack Ricciardo. He made him wait, so there's a lap and a half to go, then let him through. And then I believe, I don't know if it's confirmed, that he was unhappy that they didn't switch it back round, but at the end of the day you're leaving the team at the end of the season, and if it was me, I would have just let him through so he can go, you know, if I let him through, if I let him through and he takes Ricciardo, great. If I let him through and he doesn't take Ricciardo, then say to the team, can you honour it and switch us back round? Because obviously at the start he was lucky that he didn't get glipped by Perez, but obviously I know Gasly was. So those two had good races as well. So it would be interesting to sort of see where Ocon goes next. I think he goes to Haas I believe there was a report in either the Daily Mail or Daily Mirror last week or around just after the Canadian Grand Prix saying that Beerman has signed a contract with Haas. I assume it'd be loaned to Haas. Obviously I don't know if that's true or not. We'll wait and see. I think with Ocon, he is a fast driver. He's just, when he won the Hungary Grand Prix, yes, he had a lot of help from Alonso defending. Obviously he had to defend himself a few laps from Hamilton, but Alonso was the teammate that you needed. He was the one that was defensively driving great. He helped the team, and in Monaco, yes, he should never have done that move. It was never really on. In hindsight, he should have just left it, because if he hadn't done it with the red flag, potentially they both could have got points. And obviously in his interview after the race to Natalie Pinkham, I'm sure it's Natalie Pinkham, I could be wrong, and he said that he's not going to be the nice guy anymore, and that he'll announce what he's doing when he's ready to. So I don't know whether he will see the season at Alpine if he has crashes with Gasly or costs them points. They're likely to potentially drop him and potentially put Jack Doohan in there or Victor Martins in there. I believe they're probably two of the names for the seat. I did see a report by Sky Sports News, I can't remember his name, he was saying that he thinks those two are favourites, and that Mick Schumacher may do endurance or something again next year if he stays with Alpine, and they have spoken to obviously Carlos and Bottas, so whether Bottas is just not interested in him, I don't know. They could do with some experienced drivers in the sim, so maybe Bottas or Mick Schumacher maybe in the thing, and obviously they can't sign Yuki now because he's signed for another year at VCARB or Red Bull or whatever it's going to be called. They've got too many bloody names, but he signed for another year there. And Zoo's not really doing himself any favours at stake at the minute, but obviously that car is awful. I quite enjoyed the race. Let me know in the comments what you'd give the Canadian Grand Prix out of 10, your highlight, and who you think could improve or was the worst driver, not the worst driver, but the person who had a stinker, shall we say. Oh, and another thing, the Albon move on Ocon or somebody else was like top notch, probably one of the best overtakes we've ever seen. The D-rates on that Alpine and Albon had really nowhere to go. It was just so impressive how he managed to just weave his car through and get both places. It was really, really good to see, and shows you that he's got the skills and should be considered. I know he's not he's outperforming that car, I think, and I think he deserves a seat near the front, but not with, he needs to do it hopefully with a Williams that's up there as well. So that'd be interesting to see. But yeah, just let me know in the comments what you thought of the race, and out of 10, what you liked, what you didn't like, who was your driver of the day and who wasn't your driver, and who had a stinker. Obviously the pit stops at stake aren't quick either, so that probably doesn't help either. But this obviously, I'm recording this on Wednesday the 19th of June, and I saw on Autosport on X a couple of days ago that Alpine are considering looking for a new engine supplier. Now, to me, if this is true, this just screams that Renault are just potentially just going to have the team, or the Alpine team, and that's going to be it. They're not going to do engines anymore. I've said in a in the first episode that I did, it was they've never really had a long-term plan to win races. If they wanted to win races, they needed to, I mean, I know they spent money on Enstone, but they needed to really make Enstone like a proper big factory, and they need to get some outside people in, whether it's people from Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, or from other motorsports, and getting them in to help get your engine up to speed and help develop the car. But they've never really done that. Those investors have come in, and obviously Anthony Joshua and the others have all won in their retrospective sports. Obviously, I know that Rob McGalley and his mate have guided Wrexham to League One. You know, with winning the league, winning the Conference League, and going up as a top 3 team in League 2. So they all know how to win races, but it just seems like Renault really, I don't know if they're just not interested anymore, or whether they just think, the team's doing badly, so what we do is we'll cut even more money from the budget. You know, the fact that the money that was used to buy Alpine, you know, the money that was given to them from the investors was then used to pay off a loan, when it could have been used to invest in the team, which would show, you know, that would show your fans that you're committed to the cause. Is rather interesting, but I mean, they've got their reasons for doing what they're doing, so maybe they've got to pay the loan off. They're getting high interest rate, maybe, I don't know. So it'd be interesting to see how that pans out. Spain this weekend, like I say, it's not going to be a great race. I don't think it's ever really been a great race, so let me know in the comments your top 3 drivers. Who's going to be in the podium, first, second and third. Hopefully I can get another video out with a bit more news before Saturday. Thank you guys for listening to me waffle on about F1, and hopefully you enjoy the Canadian Grand Prix as well. If you don't mind hitting the like button, clicking subscribe and hitting the notification bell and sharing with people, that'd be greatly appreciated. Until next time, this is Henry Kravitz. Goodbye.